Well, no matter what way you look at it, the Lakers are off to a great start. Currently having a record of 14-4, riding a 6-game win streak, having yet to lose with LeBron back on the court, and with a trio of LeBron, Luka, and Austin playing together, putting together a road record of 8-2. 10 of their 18 total games have come on the road, by the way, so that's very impressive. 6-2 on their own home court, and not to mention being undefeated in NBA Cup play, in the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup, being one of the last 4 teams remaining, and possibly to win another one, as they did win the first NBA Cup back in 2023, though that's obviously not the primary goal for them here. What they want to do is win a championship and build the best possible team that they can. And well, up until this point, I think they might be overachieving a little bit. Again, I think they played great and really have done well in multiple areas, especially offense. Like I talked about during my last video, they're one of, if not the best pick and roll offense in NBA history, having the most points per possession in regard to pick and roll ball handling ever, meaning NBA history again. Luke averaging over 13 per game, Austin averaging over 9 per game. Their pick and roll offense and offense in general has been elite, very efficient, and not to mention that 14 of their 18 games have come without LeBron playing, even 5 of which have been without Luka, 3 of which have been without Austin, so they're definitely playing at a very high level offensively. Currently having the 6th offensive rating in the entire NBA, being the best offensive rated team during their 6-game win streak. Their starting lineup is the best offense in the entire league during that win streak and in general as well, though there is a little bit of a fallback when it comes to their bench unit. Their bench unit happens to be the worst rated offense, but the best rated defense in the entire NBA. And if you then flip the script on their starting lineup, they're the best offense, but the worst defense in the entire NBA. So an obvious misbalance here that might not be able to be corrected internally. I mean, I've talked about it, as many of you know. My main recommendation for that would be to flip somebody in their starting lineup, like a guy like Rui Hachimura, who is not very defensive minded. No, that's not a slight at him. I know some fans tend to be offended by that, and even at the idea of flipping out Hachimura in their starting lineup, which is not a bad thing for him in my opinion, but would probably be the best way to balance the rotation, flipping him out for a Marcus Smart, a more defensive minded player, though not even that would probably be the end-all be-all fix of their team. After all, neither Marcus Smart, Jared Vanderbilt, or even a Jake LaRavia are really great or even two-way players in general. LaRavia is, but isn't a great reliable two-way option yet. Hopefully he will eventually become that, and maybe even later this season. But on their entire team, they don't have much two-way talent. And in my opinion, if they want to build the best possible team that they can, a championship caliber team and a definitive championship caliber team, a top tier one, not just a maybe, then they have to add more two-way talent. In my opinion, that's the obvious and really the perfect plan for them going forward. I mean, they've now found out what they look like with LeBron back, with all 3 of LeBron, Luka, and Austin on the court together, what their starting lineup looks like, again with the addition of DeAndre Ayton, keeping Hachimura in there. They're elite offensively, they're great, and the vibes are pretty good, but they're not very good defensively. Even at their best defensive stretch here, not even a top 10 defense, and that's against some lighter competition, albeit with a few tougher opponents in there too, but mainly teams like Utah, again last night like Dallas, who, although had Anthony Davis back and are obviously better with him back, even play pretty damn good offensively, they're not a great defensive team, neither in their starting lineup or on their entire team in general. So if they want to get to that point, if they want to reach the better balance that they don't currently have right now, they gotta make a few changes. A few of which are internal, again likely making a change to their starting lineup, though that's not the end-all be-all fix again. The next of which being either a trade, very likely have to be a trade, maybe a couple of them. That's a given in my opinion and something they do eventually have to do if they want to achieve a better balance. I mean, to start out with, I'd try something like Hachimura, flipping him out for Marcus Smart, maybe a Jake LaRavia if he could get back on track, but probably have to be Marcus Smart when he gets back and is healthy again. You know, just missed the last game with a back spasm, so nothing too serious with him. But if they want to eventually reach the better fix and the better balance with their team, I think they have to acquire a true legitimate two-way player for them. A guy that can take on tough defensive matchups and be a positive offensive player at the same time for them. Be an above average 3-point shooter, meaning a 35% plus 3-point shooter, a good offensive player in general, likely filling that 5th option role for their team that Hachimura currently does. No, not quite to that level. I mean, that would be great if he could replicate the 50% from the field and 40% plus from the 3-point line, but then more importantly, actually add some good defense to their team. In my opinion, again, that's the route for them and the best route for them to achieve the best possible potential on this current team. However, to upgrade your team and to get that kind of two-way player that we're talking about, that probably won't come cheap. And to make a trade, you obviously have to trade players away, which is where the hard conversations come in. Not too long ago, I made a video about the Lakers' big decision that they have on trading guys like Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt, Dalton Knecht, Kleber, pretty much every trade asset they have left. And I said that I would not really like to trade Hachimura. I would much rather keep him and take advantage of what he does offensively for their team, albeit with him coming off the bench and maybe making that flip eventually. But with guys like Vanderbilt, Dalton Knecht, Maxi Kleber, Gabe Vincent, really those two in particular, meaning Kleber and Vincent, then their final tradable first round draft pick, their 4 future first round draft pick swaps, their second round draft pick, and the little trade assets they have in general apart from that, I would definitely be trying to flip that for a true two-way talent, a 3-and-D player, whatever you want to call them, via trade. And believe it or not, I think it actually might be possible without having to trade Hachimura. Yes, obviously to get a top tier 3-and-D wing, you would have to trade Hachimura, at least very likely you would have to. But if you're talking about a maybe not as well known 3-and-D option, maybe a younger option that might have an expiring contract, I think it might be doable and I would at least try to go that route before going all the way and having to trade Hachimura plus more assets to go all in for a 3-and-D player that they maybe don't quite need. And well, if we're talking about a lesser 3-and-D option quote unquote, and really take the word lesser here with a grain of salt, I think they're still very productive and might be able to fill the hole that they currently have on their team. I take a look at a few players, one of which being Keon Ellis, a guy I've talked about plenty at this point, even made an entire video about it and the possibility of trading him, as I think it's very much on the table for the Kings, and maybe for a team like the Lakers to go out and acquire him. According to reports, he is very much available. Everyone from Jake Fisher has talked about it, Mark Stein, previous reports before that, and if you look to the rotation and the amount of playing time that he's getting, that's a pretty good signal to it. I mean, coming off a 7-minute game in their last game, prior to that was a DNP, so he's obviously not a big part of their rotation, not a part of their future, at least not theirs. It doesn't appear to be that way. On the season, is only playing 17 minutes per game, a 7-minute per game decrease compared to last season, and in spite of that is putting up some pretty damn good numbers, shooting 41.5% from the 3-point line, not to mention that he's a 42.8% career 3-point shooter, averaging 1.3 steals per game in only 17 minutes per game, that translating to nearly 3 of them per 36 minutes, not to mention that he's top 5 in deflections per 36 minutes this season to go along with it. On top of that, is only 25 years old, is a very athletic, crafty wing player that, although is not the biggest wing player, is roughly 6'4", 6'5", with a 6'8.5" wingspan. I think he'd be a great fit for their team, would pretty much be a great fit for any team other than the Sacramento Kings, I guess, and he definitely could help their team out. Then for kind of the cherry on top, what it would take to get him and match his salary through a trade would only be Dalton Knecht and his $4 million salary, and then maybe a future first round draft pick swap. Yes, a swap, not an actual first round draft pick, and it might be able to get the deal done, as he does happen to be on an expiring contract, which does come with a bit of risk. After all, if you trade for a player that's on an expiring contract, you do have to pay them to retain them this summer. And for a guy like Keon Ellis, and if you play well for their team, that could be anywhere from possibly 8 to 15 million per year. As again, he does put up good numbers and is a true two-way talent. However, even if they can't get him, as there does appear to be a pretty high demand for him, or is likely to be one around the trade deadline, maybe go out and look at a guy like Ochai Agbaji, another player that was a great two-way talent and played quite a bit last season for the Toronto Raptors, but has now had his playing time cut in half, literally, down from 27.2 minutes per game to now 13.2. And no, he's not playing well like Keon Ellis, and therefore making it very confusing. Only averaging 3 points per game, shooting 37.5% from the field and 6% from 3, obviously not very good. But if we point to an entire season from last year, on top of that pretty much his 3-year career in general up until that point, he had been pretty good. Last season averaging 10.4 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, 1 steal per game, shooting very efficient from both the field, 50%, and 3-point line, 40%. I would more so point to that rather than what he's doing right now and the lack of reliability in their rotation. On top of that, with him being on an expiring contract, much like Keon Ellis, I think the Toronto Raptors might be willing to trade him. He's not a vital part of the rotation, a rotation that's currently playing very well and is on quite the win streak. I think they'd be willing to part with him. The fact that they have to assign more guys next summer, one of them likely won't be Ochai Agbaji. Maybe they get something for him now rather than lose him for nothing eventually. Maybe take a package around Dalton Connect, maybe a future first round draft pick swap. Maybe you wouldn't even have to take that with how poorly he's playing at the moment. I think it might be something to look into. If they can't get a Keon Ellis, if they maybe can't get a different option, I would definitely be very happy with Ochai Agbaji. I'd be pretty bullish with him to get back to what he showed last season on a team with Luka, LeBron, Austin, finding him for open 3-point shots, getting more playing time within the rotation, is a good two-way wing, is only 25 years old like Keon Ellis, so I think he would be a good fit. I think he would be a worthwhile trade target, and another buy low option that could fill a major need on their team. And well, I think you get what I'm trying to say here. If I'm the Lakers, I'm definitely trying to go after a cost-effective two-way option, figuring out if that would be enough to plug the hole in their team, adding more two-way talent, and if that would be enough to balance it out at least a little bit to where it could push them over the top and push them into that top tier contention, which they're not very far away from in my opinion. Maybe go after a Keon Ellis, Ochai Agbaji, even a different guy that I won't talk about too much like a Najee Marshall. I would try to go after that first and see where that takes them. If it balances out the rotation enough and again pushes them to that top tier level, or if it doesn't, and then they might have to go after a bigger target, which at that point would require trading a guy like Rui Hachimura, both for value and likely for salary and to make the trade work financially. Possibly for a guy like Herb Jones, for example. That's always been and will continue to be my top tier 3-and-D trade target. After all, he plays for a bad team with really no future direction at this point. If the Pelicans would blow it up and if they would make him available, even for a somewhat decent price, and the Lakers don't put it together and obviously need more two-way talent, even maybe after making a trade for a lesser two-way target like a Keon Ellis or Ochai Agbaji, that would be the end-all be-all trade target that I would eventually go all in for if it feels like they need to. But again, that's only my thought process, and I would start out by making a switch from Rui Hachimura to a more defensive-minded player in their starting lineup, letting Hachimura add more offense to their bench unit, which again is currently the worst rated offense in the entire league among bench units, adding a more defensive-minded player like Marcus Smart to their starting lineup, which is currently the worst rated defensive starting lineup. Maybe try that out and see how that balances things out. If that's enough, great. Hopefully it would be, but I'm not sure it would. Then after that point, try to add a more cost-effective two-way option, again a Keon Ellis, Ochai Agbaji, Najee Marshall, etc. If that doesn't work, then go all in and maybe try to go after a Herb Jones. Though those are only my thoughts, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. What would be your perfect plan, quote unquote, for the Lakers going forward and to make them achieve their top tier potential? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then I'll greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching, and have a great day or night.